All right, as we take a look at the last section of chapter 1, we're going to look at angle pairs. And two very common angle pairs that we're going to look a lot at are one, complementary. Complementary are two angles that add to be 90 degrees, and supplementary angles are two angles that add to be 180 degrees. Sometimes you'll notice a complementary angle pair because they create that little box. That little box in the corner we know means 90 degrees. So sometimes they're easy to see. Sometimes they're not as easy to see. Maybe they'll be something like this, and they'll say this is 30 degrees and this is 60 degrees. Well, these are still complementary because 30 plus 60 equals 90 degrees. So I can say that these two angles are complementary angles. I can also say that the difference is these are adjacent because they're next to each other, and these are not. So in complementary sets, they don't have to be adjacent or next to each other, but they could be. Works the same way with supplementary angles. So if I have an angle pair that looks something like this, I could say that it's supplementary because together they form a straight line. This plus this equals 180 degrees. I could also say that this angle and this angle are supplementary because again, they add to be 180 degrees. But again, these are not adjacent and these are adjacent. So sometimes you'll notice that that happens, and that is a-okay. The last part of our notes before we do a couple of examples to show how this works is to talk about what a linear pair is. And a linear pair is created when I see two angles that form a line, form a straight line. So that might look really familiar to you because that's also supplementary. But remember, supplementary could also not be adjacent. So a linear pair is just specific to this kind. They have to be next to each other. They have to share a ray. So they have to be next door neighbors to be considered a linear pair. And again, you can see in this whole idea of linear or a line that together they have to form a straight line or 180 degrees. The last one are vertical angles. And if you remember vertical angles, anytime you see an X, so X marks the spot, you create vertical angles. And what's nice is that I know whenever I create that little X, that opposite angles are congruent. They're equal to each other. So for instance, if I said that this one is 60 degrees, I know that this one is 60 degrees. They're across from each other. They're opposite. The same is for over here. I would know that these are also congruent. They are the same. So anytime you see an X marks the spot, the opposite pairs of angles you know would be congruent. So let's finish marking this. If these are both 60, and if this just right here created a straight line, 60 plus what is 180? Well, I know that that is 120. And if this is 120, I know this has to be 120 as well. So let's take a look at this example so we can kind of see how this applies to what we're doing in geometry class. A lot of algebra is still going to peek in. Let's take a look at this example and see that this right here I know is a 90-degree angle. I know that because they gave me this little box already, so I can assume that these two together equal 90 degrees. I could also say that these two angles are complementary because I know that they equal 90 degrees. So let's see if we can figure out what these angle measures are. I already know that this is 20. So 20 plus what do I need to put in here? So let's see, 2x plus 10. This angle plus this angle equals 90. I should now be able to solve this equation. So I have 2x, I have 10 and a 20, which gives me a 30. And again, if you want to highlight as we go, that's super helpful. So first up, I'm going to subtract 30. And I will get 60. Last step, this says to multiply by 2, so I'll divide by 2. And I get 30 degrees. Remember, I have to pay attention to what the directions are going to ask for. Are they going to ask me for X? Most of the time, they're going to ask me for angle measures. So if I already know that this is 20, I need to go in here and put this in here, and 2 times 30 is 60, plus 10 is 70. So it kind of depends. Are they asking me for X? Are they asking me for the angle measure? And again, I know that 20 plus 70 is 90. So I can know for sure that I got both of those right.